It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We're your hosts, Jess and Jill, and today we want to tell you the truth about your metabolism being broken. This is obviously the term broken. Obviously, people use it a lot, and I know they don't actually think it's broken literally, but people think it's slow, or age has slowed it down, or their hormones are slowing it down, or whatever the case is. And we want to kind of break that down. There's definitely 8 million nuances and caveats because we're Jessica and Jill, but we want to really give you like the main theme that we tend to see when women come to us feeling like their metabolism is slow. I think this is especially important to understand because we take so many clients through a metabolic reverse diet muscle building phase. I would say like 99% of the time, that's what we're doing first when somebody comes into our program, especially when they have hormonal or gut concerns. So we want to break down like what that actually looks like and how your metabolism actually works. I feel like this is like people don't understand this. And I think when you understand it, it really gives you a totally different view of weight loss in general. And I think it changes the way that you consume information about weight loss on social media. And I also think it makes you kind of check yourself when you're trying to lose weight and realizing why maybe your approaches to weight loss haven't worked in the past or haven't been sustainable for you long term, where maybe you've gotten results, but you didn't keep them. So most women they think they're metabolically adapted when they come to us, meaning they think I eat so little and I'm not losing weight. What we have found, we are not calling any of you dishonest. I think sometimes it's just genuine, like you're again, you kind of have your blinders on and you're just so caught up in what you're doing a lot of the times with restriction that mentally you feel restricted, even if you're not literally restricting 24/7 like you feel like you are. So they feel like, well, I'm eating 1,200 calories and I'm not losing weight. But then when we kind of like dig a little bit deeper, or we have clients track their food for a week or two when they first start with us to audit, like, all right, what does this actually look like? So often they'll come to us and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed, or I'm so frustrated with myself. I cannot believe how much I eat on the weekends, or I can't believe how much I eat, and I thought I was eating way less. When you actually like weigh it out and measure your food and see and do that. And it's funny when women come to us, I'm like, hey, audit period. I don't care if you eat like Burger King 6 times a day, like whatever you normally do, track it. So we really have like a true picture of why you're stuck right now. And then we know what our best starting point is with you. So
it's actually funny because I think a lot of people just during that baseline tracking window then lose like 2 pounds that week.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, then that wasn't what you've been doing because you just lost weight on accident just by writing it all down because you ended up making different choices because you were being mindful.
You're a little more mindful.
Writing it down, right? I also think to build on like how this episode could be helpful to you, there are a lot of people in our industry, and I believe well-meaning people, who fall on either side of this spectrum, like your metabolism can't break, blah, 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 blah. Like you're not metabolically adapted. You just eat like shit. Like they make you feel bad, but they're trying to say the point in a not very effective way. And then there's these other people, and I believe both. But there's this other camp that's like, the reason you're not losing weight is because you're metabolically adapted, which is true for some of our clients, but it's a very small bit of people. I like using that approach because it gets us talking to people who didn't realize, like in either way, we can get them effective outcomes, but both can be true. Okay. So when you hear one side saying that the other side is not accurate, like saying it's impossible to be metabolically adapted, you're just eating too much. That's just not accurate. But it is true that most people are overeating. If they weren't, our society wouldn't be mostly obese, right? So there's some truth to both of them, and you just need to understand the context so that you can decide what's your body actually doing, because then we can decide what the appropriate next step is for you. And in either case, doing some sort of muscle building phase to establish healthier habits and put muscle on will help you, whether you actually are metabolically adapted to low calories or whether you are accidentally going over on weekends or just inconsistent or whatever. An effective, healthy build phase will help.
Yeah. And, the women in the individuals that I market to and that come into our program, I often talk about being metabolically adapted. Now, I think it's important to understand one that when we take women through a reverse diet, I feel like I have this like debate all the time with other people in this space who are like, reverse dieting is useless, it doesn't work, it's stupid, whatever. There's one specific company that I won't name drop, but they hard and fast in their Facebook group talk against it. And it's because one, quite frankly, I don't think they understand it. Two, they're very much in the camp of if you're fat, because you're overeating, and there's no other logical explanation, which conversation
is its own problem. Yeah.
But what happens is that when women come to me, I ask them, when is the last time you intentionally ate 2,000 or more calories a day? And they're like, oh my God, never. And that is the problem. And that I'm like, that is why you need a reverse diet. So there's a massive psychological component to taking women through reverse dieting. So when we're in this period of restriction, maybe you are eating 1,200 calories Monday through Friday, but you're eating 2,500 or 3,000 Saturday and Sunday.
And maybe you're not restricting on purpose. Maybe you're not trying to. You're just busy and you're on the go. So you grab a coffee and then you bring your kids to the school bus and then you do this and that. And you're like, no, I have a great relationship with food. I'm not under eating. And then you write it all down and you're like, oh, snap. I didn't realize I skipped meals that often.
That is a form of being metabolically adapted, right? It's not this like, oh, you're at 1,200 calories and you're never going to lose weight. We still explain this concept, but it's so multifaceted, the phase that we take clients through in the beginning, because step one is awareness. Step two is looking at, all right, what are your averages overall for your calorie intake? If you're eating 1,200 5 days and 3,000 2 days, let's go 1,700 or 1,800 every day and see how you feel. Generally, like Jess said, their averages actually end up being slightly lower when we do that than what their approach was before. And they're like, oh my God, I'm losing weight in my reverse diet. And I'm like, no, you're just eating a little bit less.
You're not eating less calories. You're just more full because you're not like starving yourself all week.
Protein and nutrients and all these other things. So that's part of it. But the psychological component is that we have to slowly add calories to these women's diets to let their brains see the data and feel safe eating more food. And they can't, if I just tell someone to eat 2,000 calories tomorrow, one, digestively, they might not feel great doing that all the time because they're either intentionally or unintentionally restricting most days. So physically, we have to give them a second. But most importantly, psychologically, we help women over week, add a little bit more food and show them, hey, look, you're now eating
you're not gaining inches
per day. Yeah, and you haven't gained a single thing. And still, sometimes just the act of eating more food and seeing 1,900 calories will send them into a tizzy. And then in checking, I'm like, hey, just to give you some peace of mind here, you're eating 600-700 calories more per day. Your inches are the same or down. Your pictures look incredible. And the scale's within 2 pounds, sometimes down, sometimes up, of where you started, because you literally have more food volume in your body. This is good. But they just don't know what they don't know, right? They're so conditioned to think I'm eating more and this is bad and this isn't going to get me what I want. And then we're taking those calories and shuttling them to really effective programming and training. That's where the body recomposition comes from, right? But also healthy habits, relationship with food, just taking care of your body, some level of consistency, which we talked about on the previous episode. So reverse dieting is so multifaceted. And it's not because Jess and I are like, nope, this is only about metabolism. And we know all of these women are stuck at 1,200 calories.
We do not believe that at all.
There's so many.
Some people are, very, very few are. But usually that's not the case. And there was something you just said, about shuttling it to muscle. I actually don't even call it, when I'm talking to my clients, I don't even call it a reverse diet. I call it a muscle building phase, right? The intention should be to put said extra calories towards healthy muscle tissue that is going to speed up your metabolism and improve all of these things in your health markers. I don't just say, okay, we're just going to reverse diet for the sake of it, right? Now I'm sure there's value in that for some people from a habit building standpoint, right? But I am always pairing it with, we want to build muscle because there's good weight in muscle. I say that because for most of my clients, we're gaining 5 to 7 pounds during a effective build phase of like maybe a 4 month, 5 month, 5 to 7 pound gain. guess what? They're not increasing in inches or body fat at all during that time. We're doing it in a really strategic way. But again, I like to just set realistic expectations around that. And then it makes their fat loss phase so much easier. Now they've got these established habits going on. It's now normal for them to nail their protein goals and eat some fruits and veggies and fibers each day. They're in the consistent lifting routine. And their metabolism's all fired up because now they've been maintaining at, let's say, 2,600 calories. Cool. Now we drop to 1,900 and you lose weight like that, right? And again, if somebody's been actually dieting for a very long time lower, they might have to cut lower and lower and lower. Your body's going to give us information on what is it actually adapted to. If we cut to 1,800 and nothing happens after 3 weeks, we will try 1,700 and then we'll wait. And then we'll try 1,600, right? We may have to cut lower and lower. But typically the thing that's the biggest factor of that is how long was your dieting history prior for somebody who truly was metabolically adapted. But
I think gastric bypass clients are a really great example of this. They are
tough.
often very, very truly metabolically adapted, and most of their dieting phases do end up being much lower calorie than we'd prefer. But it's because they likely truly ate a very low calorie intake after surgery, anywhere from 1 to 5 years prior to working with us. So those do take a little bit more time. Now,
but it's still cool. The build phase, we're usually able to get their build phase up quite high without them gaining. So I've seen that a lot where it's like, hey, your metabolism's able to eat more. How cool is that? Now, we might have to be temporarily really uncomfortable cutting quite a bit during this deficit, but know that that's a short-term thing. And then once we get there, we can maintain those inches again while climbing back high because we already proved to your body during that initial build phase that you can handle it.
Yep. So the other thing is too, women will come to us and say, okay, calorie deficit's not working. I need help, metabolism, hormones, whatever, right? And then we set this expectation of, hey, you might gain a couple pounds through this build phase. It might be the next 3 to 6 months, maybe longer. Now you might be listening to this and be like, oh my God, holy shit, I don't want that. But if you aren't eating protein consistently, if you do have habits of restricting all week and not on the weekends, whatever, those habits are not now going to serve you in a calorie deficit just because I'm telling you to be in a calorie deficit. So the reason, again, that we're doing this other stuff first is if I know you can nail your protein, if you understand the value of nutrients and colors in your food and satisfying your body, how much easier a deficit will be later after we've added some muscle. You don't have to go quite as low in calories, and you have the principles and the tools and the habits that you need to then execute a deficit effectively. Not to mention, diet fatigue is a very real thing. And sometimes you just need a freaking break from restricting and trying to see the scale go down, which where our goal as coaches is not for people to, yes, the scale is going to go down eventually if you have body fat to lose, but we want you to focus on fat loss over weight loss. So anyway, the point is that there's so much that goes into this metabolic phase that we take clients through initially. And again, it's a physiological. So sometimes we are optimizing gut and hormones. If a client comes in and is like, I'm bloated 24/7, sometimes when we regulate their consistency and their calorie intake, we look at their fiber, we improve food quality, they're hydrated, they're sleeping better. Sometimes that stuff does resolve. Other times it does require a stool test or GI map or something for us to say, like a client might be like, listen, this is debilitating. I have to get an answer to this. Cool. Let's run a lab and do what we need to do and fix that. But we can't lose fat at the same time. We've got to be at maintenance and might as well build muscle while we're doing that too.
Most of the time, improving the basics does, as a trickle down, heal and fix those symptoms. And you can't skip those steps. So even if you go do some crazy hormone protocol or some functional person who only focuses on supplements says, go take all this stuff. If those basics are not fixed, you're continuously stressing your gut out and the issues are going to come back.
Also, Jess had said earlier in the episode, sometimes calories are lower during the weekend. And a lot of time for women, it's unintentional where they don't eat all day because from the second they open their eyeballs, they have 8 million things to do. And then they feel like they air quote binge at night. But realistically, if you look at your overall calorie intake, you're not eating 3,000 calories. It might feel like you are because you're shoving all those calories in at once, but you're still generally under eating. So what happens is we kind of space that stuff out. And then hormonally, you're like, but my cortisol is high, but my thyroid is off. I have no doubt if you're under eating most of the time that those things are dysregulated. But so many women in our program are like, hormones, I need labs, I need this protocol. And I'm like, none of that I can run every lab in the world, but it doesn't matter because
It's not gonna
just
fix this.
eating more food first. And that's always going to be step one, no matter what these labs say.
And can we talk about the opposite side of the spectrum too? So we also have women who overeat, right?
Yep.
In a similar way, this process, people coming from very different ends of the spectrum, under eating versus overeating, the process still works for them, because what ends up happening is within that amount of food. So let's say somebody comes to us and they're eating 3,000 calories a day. We give them a protein and a fiber goal and we say, okay, this is all we want you to focus on at first. And let's just see where your calories fall. Suddenly they start eating less calories because they're full from adding more nourishment within said calories, right? So we tell them, you don't need to remove anything. Nothing's off limits. Just hit these goals first. Once you hit your protein goals, then you can fill in the remaining calories with whatever balanced foods you want, right? Have the cheesecake, have whatever. Naturally, they end up eating less calories once they have more nourishment in their body, naturally. Or they say, I can't believe how full I am. Now that we're doing this reverse diet, and it's like, we're not eating more. You wouldn't be losing weight if we were actually eating more calories. You're eating less calories, but because they're more nutrient dense, that's what's happening, is now you're actually in a deficit and you don't even feel like it because you're just full.
Yeah, because overall you're still in a deficit.
So there's value. There's value across the board. And I say that because I have had women who are like, no, I eat plenty. Just bring me into a deficit. I need to see fat. I need to see weight loss now. Okay, time out. Do you care about weight loss or fat loss? What if we do this and then we see inches go down as we build muscle? That's actually going to set you up health-wise even better. You're comfortable doing that, right? So kind of walking them through the why, it's still valuable for them to spend that time in a muscle building phase.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's say you're listening to this and you're like, no, I eat 1,200 calories for weeks and weeks and nothing happens. The other pattern of this that I see is maybe you are consistent at 1,200 calories and you feel like you lose the same 5 pounds over and over again because you are consistent for a couple of weeks, but you generally are like, you give out at some point because the results aren't fast enough. And then when we dig into it, it's like, well, I haven't actually been dieting for the last couple of weeks, but when I was, I only lost this much weight. And it's like, great, you got to do it longer, right? You were losing weight at that calorie intake. Maybe it was just too low and it wasn't realistic. And you do need to take time off to build muscle and replenish things and then go back in later so that you don't have to go as low. True adaptation means a consistently low intake and truly plateaued weight. Generally, there's like an actual loss of hunger cues, which I will say that I do feel like I see that in like our peri and postmenopausal population because they have been dieting on and off for a very long time. Note that I said on and off. But loss of hunger cues, and then again, like you might have some hormone and gut dysregulation and things, but at the end of the day, we have to look at a lot of components. The other thing is when calorie intake drops, often, like not often, it is proven that your NEAT, your non-exercise activity decreases. So you're eating less, but you're also moving less and you're not burning the calories you were when you were eating more.
Your body naturally tries to maintain homeostasis. So this automatically happens.
Fidget less, you do everything less.
A big part of our process is monitoring adaptations of all these different switches that I say, okay, we can turn this switch on now, right? Because it's not just as simple as calories in, calories out. Like our bodies do so many different things. So we're training to build muscle, we're lifting heavy, but like during a muscle building phase, I actually tend to dial people's steps back a little bit.
Yep.
Movement is healthy, guys. More movement is healthy. If everybody could eat lots of nutrients and move a lot, we would be better off health-wise. However, if it's a stretch goal for you to get to 8,000 steps a day, okay, what's your norm? 6,000 steps? Cool. Just do that during our build phase, because then when we go into a deficit, I'm actually going to crank your steps up and have you track it. So naturally, your body's going to want to slow down. If you weren't tracking these things, naturally, when you eat less, you're going to tend to move less. We're going to crank your movement up during that deficit just to get that little bit of an extra, okay, calorie in versus calorie out game versus having to cut as low, right? So we're looking at all of these things as we go so that we can kind of manipulate the adaptation across the board versus allowing your body to just succumb to its natural trying to balance out to homeostasis. Like we're overcoming that.
She says we're cutting you back. We're cutting you back from you trying to push beyond what your natural movement patterns are. So
your natural.
So many women come to us saying, well, I get 10K steps, I get 12K steps. And I'm like, great. Is that just your norm? Like a normal day, not trying, no extra walks? That's often not the case. So that's usually what we're cutting back is extra cardio or anything that you feel like I have to do this because if you drift back to 6 or 7K and you're still in a health, if you drift back to 2 or 3, yeah, we're going to have you move a little bit more. We don't want you sedentary, but a healthy amount so that later, like Jess said, we have this like lever to pull to increase your activity from what you're naturally adapted to and getting. I'm not saying don't go for walks and be with your family, but just
No,
don't
we
push
just
it
don't
for
want
the
you
sake of
feeling like you
losing.
have to go above and beyond all the
Yeah.
time, because what you are adapted to is what matters. The same thing goes with cutting calories. Again, if I have several people like this where during their build phase, they are seeing really cool physique change because their body's just not adapted to lifting and protein. So they're losing inches every single week. And they're like, okay, when's my deficit? And I'm like, when you stop losing inches every week and not being in a deficit, because why are we going to pull that trigger when we don't have to? At some point, your body's going to adapt to this and you're going to plateau and you're going to stop losing inches. Right now, we're losing inches every single week, even though your weight is staying the same because you're building muscle. If you're losing inches every single week, that is a major, major, major win. That means you're losing body fat without having to cut calories. We live there until you plateau for a few weeks in a row. Then we can pull the card of cutting calories, because why would you want to do that and then start adapting to that sooner than you have to?
Yeah, and truly, like, to piggyback on that, this phase, this metabolic muscle building phase, reverse diet, whatever you want to call it, is very diagnostic for us as coaches, because we want to see, how does this person feel and function when they actually fuel their body and give their body and meet their body's demands, right? The energetic demands that their body needs to truly thrive, and be healthy. And we're not talking about gaining body fat during this process. Like, so I tell clients that come in, hey, this is mentally, the first couple of weeks can be the hardest, because you're creating new habits. We're kind of unwiring some beliefs that you have, but also we have to create that like safety in your brain of eating more food is okay and it's good. Once we get over that initial hump of like sometimes weekly mentee bees, of like us developing that trust in with the
That means
client,
mental
but also
breakdown.
yeah,
That means mental breakdown for anybody who
mentee
doesn't
bee.
speak cool girl. I had to Google it.
Over that point, it tends to be the most fun and the most rewarding for women who have been dieting on and off for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It ends up being their favorite. And sometimes they get up to maintenance and they're like, I don't even want a deficit. Like, this is so nice to just eat and not gain and be present with my family. And then we're working on food quality and their hormones and everything improves. So it's very diagnostic for us to get a baseline of how their body actually performs when it is properly fueled and, again, meeting those energetic demands. And then we have awareness around appetite. We have awareness around your energy, your emotional stuff. We're building muscle because we're giving the body enough energy to sustain you as a human and also do this thing that's really beneficial for us. And we're creating that safety net internally and externally. And then fat loss is really easy beyond that and straightforward. And that's why we talk so much about like forever sustainable results, because we've built this incredible foundation. And now you're good. Your body's going to respond exactly as you would intend for it to in a deficit, not these crash diets that you've done in the past. So it's, yes, macros are used as a tool within our program for the awareness component, the data tracking, and that is very nice. But also, and to give you the flexibility, but it is just one tool, and not every client tracks macros, but it is just one really great tool in the big picture, in the grand scheme of what we're trying to accomplish with women in the long run. And our goal is for every client to graduate, of course, with the physical, internal and external results that they want, but also that they don't feel like they have to diet or track their food forever.
And they understand the why, so they know how to implement these tools in the future for themselves.
If they need to, yeah.
When they've gone through both phases successfully with us, right? And that doesn't mean being perfect. That just means understanding, showing up every single week so we can explain, hey, here's what we're looking at. This is the data. This is why I'm going to crank this lever this time and this the other. And some people don't get past that because they get in their own way, or they don't do the basics because they think, oh no, what she's giving me is too easy. And it's like, all right, well, you're missing out on the long-term results then, because we're skipping those basics. So, yeah. Okay. So to recap, most women are not metabolically adapted. Most people are just inconsistent in their inputs and unaware of their inputs. So consistently track all of your food, your protein, your lift, your progressions in your lifts for, let's say, a month, and see what you find. For those who are, because there are some who are metabolically adapted, and we've worked with you guys, you still should be able to increase your tolerance to calories and shuttle those extra calories to good, healthy muscle tissue. However, when we then go to cut, you may have to unfortunately cut lower if your body has been priorly adapted to very, very low calories. Over the course of time, the more time we can spend at high calories, the better and better that gets. So if that is something for you, you might want to spend a whole year doing a muscle building phase before trying to diet again. When we say muscle building phase, I'm saying like averaging above 2,100 calories a day as my baseline. And then the rebuild, us saying we're doing a building phase is not like an optional, well, I eat plenty, so I don't need a build. It's really foundational to yielding long-term success, improving your habits, teaching you to eat well so that when you do cut calories, it's very easy to hit your nutrients so that you don't have to cut as low during that cut, all of those things. And yeah, so when people say, oh, you don't need to reverse diet, theoretically, could we just pop you up to high calories? Yes. Would most people actually do that and stick to it? From our experience, no. So we're very strategic in the why behind every little part of it.
Yeah, and the other part of that too is, so many women have been dieting on and off for so many years, and they hear us say we want to do this phase for the next 3 to 6 months, and they're mortified they think it's a delay in their results. And this is truly like, this is the driver. This is what's going to give you everything that you want. This is going to create the positive cascade. And realistically, I want you to ask yourself, in the grand scheme of things, what is 6 months of healing relationship with food, building muscle, sleeping better, optimizing your internal health to then lose fat sustainably forever versus you trying to do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result and spending the next 20 years in the same position. And often, generally, women are losing weight and then gaining a little bit of extra back statistically. Is that the position you want to be in? Or are you willing to take 6 months, trust a professional, or do it on your own? Which
6 months for the build, because realistically, it's going to be a year to two. I want to say that it's realistically going to be 1 to 2 years to see through every phase we're talking about and actually get to a place where you are comfortable just continuing on your own. Most women that graduate with us are anywhere between 18 months with us and 24 months with us, some longer. But that, I would say, is a realistic expectation. Those first 6 months, we're unwinding all these things. We're building that foundation. We're probably getting into the start of our first deficit together, where you're realizing, oh shit, it actually works, what they just brought me through. But that's going to be the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you're learning in each phase. I just want to set that expectation realistically, because I think, again, the people who have been most successful graduate with us, it's usually like 18 months to 24 months.
Last caveat to that, and we can wrap it up, is if you come to me and say you want to lose 30 pounds, 40 pounds, whatever it is, I promise you, part of what you want is to gain 10 pounds of muscle. That is what's going
looks wise. Yeah.
Like physically, truly, the end result and vision you have in your head, I can guarantee has at least an extra 10 pounds of muscle on the body that you have in your head that you want to accomplish. So,
and if you are let's say you're overweight in body fat, that might feel real uncomfortable for a little bit, where you're like, what the heck? I came to you at 270 pounds and now I'm 280 pounds. But then we look and we say, hey, your inches have gone down. Hey, now we're in a deficit and you're not having to feel like you're restricting as much as you used to. You're not doing hours of cardio a day. Like, this is actually a win. Putting on that muscle mass is invaluable to your health big picture and to your metabolism. So I just want to touch on that, because I think there's always this caveat of, oh, well, I'm not a small little girl like you, so I can't just afford to gain 10 pounds. It's 10 pounds of lean tissue. It's not 10 pounds of body fat. And if your coach is doing it the right way, then they should be able to show that in your data and your inches.
That's it. That's all, guys. Hope that was helpful. We have a couple of episodes on this, so feel free to skim through all of our episodes about metabolism, because this is it's our goal to get that message out to women and to better understand that. And it really doesn't have to be as complicated as I think we make it. So that's all for this episode, and we will see you guys next time.